All right. Hello and welcome. Thanks so much for being here to be part of our last day of FCI Live 2024. We've got a couple of great sessions we're wrapping up with, and this is one that's been highly requested by startup food co-ops. So thank you for letting us know what you guys need. We love hearing that. This is about talking about social media and how to create social media success as a startup food co-op. And we have with us Michael Turpin from Sola Food Co-op and Carol Burns from Bethlehem Food Co-op, and I'll be introducing them more in just a minute. First, I want to quickly just thank our FCI Live champion sponsors, Colluminate and National Co-op Grocers, who have made the series possible. Thank you guys so much for that. All right, I'm going to frame out our session a little, and we're going to talk to the people who you're here to hear from. This panel session it's all about peer experience, okay? So the goal of this type of session for FCI Live is to learn about the experience of people who are in the trenches with you guys, who might be a little further along, know some things you don't know, but aren't human beings also figuring out the work as they go, just like you guys. No one startup's experience or resources or needs are going to be identical to each other's. So we're really sharing about their experience and learning from their experience rather than saying their experience is universal to all startup food co-ops, but we've definitely seen things in their organizing and their work that we think would benefit a lot of other people who are also organizing food co-ops. And the peers on these panels are gracing us with their honesty and experience, and it takes a lot of trust in us as a community to share the good and the not so great. So grateful to them, because I know startups tell us again and again that the thing they learn most from is when their peers tell the truth about their successes and the things that aren't going good or even failures, and that's so helpful. But it's a hard thing to do. We struggle sometimes as humans to say, and we're not doing so great at this, but this is going well. So we're just really grateful to them as peers to be here to share their real experience, the things that they have expertise in, the things that have gone great, and hopefully a few things that they wouldn't repeat or that aren't going so great for them, because they're human beings or actively organizing food co-ops. So thanks to them for putting their trust in us. What we're going to hear us focus on a lot today. We're going to cover social media voice. There's a lot of things that make up your social media voice. We'll talk a lot about that with examples from both food co-ops, and we're going to spend a lot of time with these examples. We'll also get some tips and advice from our peer panelists, and along the way, talk a little bit about process. One of the toughest things I often hear for startup food co-ops around social media is just who does it? How do we get, when multiple people are doing it, how does that happen? How do we make sure that we communicate the things that are just trying to do it as a volunteer team? So hopefully we'll talk a little bit about process with them too, and maybe they'll have some tips, and maybe they'll be commiserating with you.
34 minutes ago, Nancy Wilson, iMessage.
I'm going to take care of that. Sorry. All right. So we'll be focusing a lot, though, on that social media voice. Lots of time with examples. I know you guys love seeing examples of real social media and what works, so we'll be spending most of our time there. Real quick, why is social media so important as a startup food co-op? Anyone want to throw some thoughts in the chat? Go ahead. You don't have to. As a food co-op, right, we're a concept. We don't have a building. We don't have a place people can go visit. We don't have something physical they can see. Social media becomes your front porch. It becomes the place that people go to find out information about you, to see if you're real. It also becomes the only place you can really consistently talk to the public, not just your owners, but to the public about what the co-op is. And people really come to that porch to find out what you're all about. It is, and we had someone in our last session say, she said, okay, I'm going to start this comment by saying, I can't stand social media. And it's actually how our food co-op got started and has been a huge and important part of our work. So yeah, it is very much, Evan, thank you. Social media has become the new age bulletin board, right? Like in so many ways, those of us who are a little older, remember communicating, like we all listened to the same radio stations, the same TV stations, we were all looking at the same bulletin boards at the same places in the community. And now social media is kind of the one place that the vast majority of people actually go. The percentage of Americans who are on social media every day is over 90%. And even people will say to me, well, but that's a young people thing. Actually, people 55 and over, 60+% of us are on Facebook every single day, according to a recent survey. So it kind of just is where people find out stuff, even if we don't enjoy it. So we're going to keep moving here. The things we'll be looking at, I'm going to be pointing out throughout as we talk that social media, some things that are really important to success is utilizing your visual brand. Again, you don't have kind of a brand in people's minds. Like I can say, Let me try to think of it universal. I can say Meyer, I can say Kroger, and people have a picture in their head, but they don't about your co-op. So we have to create that visual brand just like they do and use it consistently. We have to create a sense of welcome, warmth, and participation, like we want you here. We really have to express our values, what the co-op is all about for our social media, and we got to be consistent. So consistency visually, consistently with how often we post, these things really, really help. So we're going to jump in though to talking to the people that you are here to listen to. So we're going to start with Michael Turpin, who is a board member from Sola Food Co-op, and Sola is located in South Los Angeles, California. They are in stage 2B, looking for a feasible site. They have been organizing for quite a while. We saw some lovely photos of their team. And Michael, thank you for being here. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey with the co-op?
Yeah, so I joined Sola over 3 years ago. My aunt is actually the founder of Sola Food Co-op, so she recruited me. And ever since, I've been basically the head of the communications committee. We have a handful of committees at Sola to help us kind of push forward through the stages. And I am mostly responsible for posting everything on our social platforms.
Excellent. And I know that you also have a professional background related to communications, that this isn't just your volunteer gig. Can you just share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my day-to-day job is essentially social media advertising. So I have clients who want to place ads on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, etc. And so I help. I don't do the actual design of the assets, but I do help concept them.
And you know a lot about how people think on social media, what gets their attention, I'd assume.
Yes, I've spent enough time on the platforms, not as much as I used to. But yeah, I do have a good understanding of what resonates with people and helps them take action.
Excellent. Thanks so much. And then we also have with us Carol Burns, who's also from the board of her co-op, from Bethlehem Food Co-op. The Bethlehem Food Co-op is located in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and it's actually in stage 3B. That means they not only have a location, they are fully funded and they are building. They're actually well into construction. So they have a GM in this case as well, who is actually in the picture on the right holding the fan. So I'd like to welcome Carol. Thanks so much for being here. And if you could just share a little bit about your journey with the co-op. I'm not hearing you, Carol.
She's muted.
You're muted.
You told everybody to mute, so I did.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So yeah, thank you for the invitation. And I really love social media and I like to talk about it. And I'm looking forward to learning from everybody else today too. I joined our co-op 5 years ago. I was really drawn to the message about supporting our local community. And also I've experienced food insecurity myself, so that was close to my heart. And about a year after I joined, I started getting involved with doing our social media. So if you're doing the math, that was literally a week before COVID.
Oh,
So
God.
Everything that we've been doing on social went away. New members, events to promote. So I had to get real creative real quickly. So up until the end of this past summer, I've been the primary person responsible for social, and now we have a team, and I am managing our Facebook group. And then, as you mentioned, I joined the board in this past October.
Excellent. And you also have kind of you have a professional history with communications as well, right?
You can say long, I'm old.
Well,
so it's good. I've done a lot of marketing and communications for education, not-for-profit, and have a slew of freelance clients I do work for. So, but I want to just point out, you don't have to have a professional background to do this, because we all started not knowing any of this and we had to learn, and I'm learning all the time. And I mostly learn by looking at what everybody else is doing and what catches my eye and what resonates with me and then I P6 it. So there you go.
Fair and true. And if you haven't heard the phrase before, P6ing, which we use a lot in this movement, but it's the sixth cooperative principle, which is cooperation among cooperatives. But we jokingly call it P6ing when we borrow stuff from other co-ops. We're like, oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to P6 that. I love that you use that. But Carol's got a great point. Please don't be intimidated by the fact that both these people have a long history with working in communications, social media. But I wanted to point it out because I think it's part of why they have so much to share to us today. Share this today. We're going to jump into examples because I know when we do social media sessions, that's where everyone really likes to spend the time. And remember the things I said we're really looking for are brand, welcome, a sense of real warmth and welcome from the social media that expresses the values of the co-op clearly and distinctly, and that there's consistency, right? So these happen to be seven of the last 8 posts. So if you start up on the left, this is the most recent, upper left, and you go across and then back down to the right and across. So the t-shirt one's the oldest. I just went to Sola's social media, this time on Facebook. I have some Instagram posts later. And I was like, okay, what have they been posting? So I'm like, oh my goodness. One of the things that really excited me, Michael, when I went and looked, is that there's this mix we try and encourage startups to have in social media of inviting people to participate, showing the co-op doing stuff in the community, of talking about why the co-op matters and asking them to join. Like there's just this flow of different things, types of communication that really work to create an overall social media voice. And this did it so well. And I just wondered if you want to talk about how your team thinks about keeping people engaged and getting all those different kinds of messages out there.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, you can see it's a mix of like graphics, text only, and images of people. Obviously, it's harder to get images of people than it is to make graphics. So you kind of have to leverage both of them. And generally, ones with people in them perform better, right? People like them, they're more relatable. But sometimes you don't have an image necessarily that's new and fresh. So that's why we like to also utilize the graphics. And then yeah, we try to have a mix of like call to action to join, because you always need new owners, and then supporting our outreach and engagement committee, which are the ones who typically go to the events, hold the toy drives, etc. And so we try to have them on site get photography or videos so that we can post them on social media. So that's kind of generally how we came about these, and we do kind of replicate this throughout the year. You can always get a quote from a current owner. You can plop that, you can overlay that on basically in any image, and then asking people to join, doing events, and then our board meetings we always support as well.
So I'm going to point that out. You guys consistently, so like why I joined Sola, this frame, this photo, this look, you guys use that every time you quote an owner, right? Creating kind of that consistency. Are there other things like that where you guys like, we always do a post, it looks the same way? It seems like you create these series, and I wondered if you're thinking behind that.
Yeah, I would say I started to do that last year. In that, like the upcoming open board meeting, it's I basically duplicate it in Canva, change the background image so that it looks exactly the same. It's just a different feel to it. The why I joined Sola, same thing. It's the same text box with the owner underneath. So it just makes it easier and quicker to post. You know, think about new templates, duplicate it, change the image in the background, and then when users go to the feed or your profile, it has like a very consistent visual feel.
Yeah, and you guys again do such a terrific job of balancing. And someone asked, do you use Canva? So the answer is yes. Your team works in Canva.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys do a great job of balancing like those consistent themes because that's kind of hard to get across. I don't know, to communicate to people who are new to social media, that balance of like consistent visual themes and of dynamic fun stuff in between, and not having too much graphic and having, but not, well, there's no such thing really as too much photo, but no one has too much photo, and trying to get that balance together. Although you guys do consistently take excellent photos, how, I know there's a lot of people on here who are doing social media for their startups are going, how do you get the outreach committee or the board to take these darn photos? Is there any trick to it? Is your team just like doing photos?
I think we can do more photos personally. Yeah, but I mean, since obviously everyone experienced COVID, there was less events in person. So there was a period where we just didn't have a lot of new content. But we do try to have a physical presence in the community. And it's basically mandatory at this point to have at least one or two photos at every event that we take place in. So some of the photos are old and recycled. So if you scroll back far enough, you would possibly find some of them.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because one thing you will notice if you go after this, and I hope you do, to both social media, to both co-op social media, and scroll through Sola's, you'll notice some real artful reuse of their best, most dynamic photos. And I don't know what this one down the bottom, don't forget to join us if you guys have used that other places, but that just seems like one of those, like that seems like social media gold, that photo. Is that the kind of, have you guys used that repeatedly? Like, what kind of photos do you tend to repeat?
Ones that represent the board for the most part. Board or owners. We don't replicate like the event photos per se, but mostly stuff around the board or new members who join.
Okay. And I'm going to double check that I haven't missed questions here before we move on to the next one. Oh, listen here. Did I miss anybody's questions? Hard to tell. I have my screen up. Okay. I think I got them. So real quick, taking a look at this is another one of those, like, notice that I love this because we need to shout out every new owner, or when we get to new owner numbers, and they had made some growth, so they have announced a number. And yes, we have the seasonal, we have the seasonal border and everything, but the team did not forget to get that logo in there, and everything is in the team's colors. Can you talk a little bit, like the text with this one? I think you guys do a really terrific job of being warm and encouraging action. Anything you want to share about like the kind of voice you guys try and set and how you talk to folks in your posts?
Well, we know it's hard work opening a co-op, and we also realize that our owners are taking a leap of faith, right? There's no guarantee that we're going to open. And so we try to stay grounded in that aspect and stay in communication with our owners and keep them engaged during what is a long journey for all of us. And yeah, we just, that's just something that we always keep top of mind is making sure that we don't forget that we are representing the community in opening this store, and it's really their voice that matters the most.
I just really love that you bring that, because I think it's easy to forget for startups. And we look at our social media, you might see it, like we're doing so much work as the board and the core organizers. And when we communicate, we mean to communicate, everyone and welcome, but we can kind of communicate a little bit, just fall in the habit of like, this is what we're doing. And I love you guys, and we appreciate, there was another one which I didn't put in here in the deck, but was like, it was just a picture of you guys interacting at a community event and saying, we are so grateful to be in community with you. That like just acknowledging that consistently, that like you're not saying, and here's what your co-op's doing, which is great too, but a lot of like, we appreciate, we're with you, we're honored just to be with you. Just this inclusion of the owners who we might not hear from all the time, and making them feel part of what is going on. I think you guys are particularly great at. And I just wanted to note the how they find a way to have a call to action in a lot of the text on their posts, and it can be subtle. Do you have any like theory, philosophy on how often you put in a call to action? Meaning, if for anyone who's new to that phrase, meaning just asking people to do something. It can be subtle. Like here, it's like, a few days left to join us, not in the area, you could donate a membership. Like you're encouraging an action, or you're suggesting an action as a call to action. And do you have any theories, philosophies on how often you do that?
Um, well, this post is during the ownership drive. So literally all the posts during ownership drive will have some type of call to action for the most part. And then, I don't know, for 30 to 40% of the other posts, we try to put something in there. But that's definitely from my advertising side, where it's like you have to tell people what to do. So that's my
Yeah, but I wanted to
software.
point that out because I think your COPE is particularly unique, that your call to action ratio in your post, how often you do it, and you said 30-40% feels about right, is higher than most startups, and wonderful. I mean, but you have a background in this, so you know why. It is hard sometimes for startups to ask for things, especially when they don't get an immediate response. They're like, oh, asking doesn't work. Can you talk from your professional background a little bit about why telling people what to do, quote unquote, asking works? Like what's the thought process on that?
I mean, it's definitely like a psychological thing, right? Like people are busy and sometimes they need to be told what to do. They're not necessarily thinking about joining today, or they may not feel the urgency. And so if you create that urgency for them, they're just more likely to take the action. Um, and it's kind of tailored obviously to people who aren't members. And
Mhm.
so there's not really a fear that you're like alienating your current members, because you're really actually talking to people who are not members yet. So that's why sometimes it's at the end, and sometimes it's at the front if you want to hit it really hard.
Nice. Absolutely. And I want to remind something Michael just said, I really want to hit on, is like people are busy. I think sometimes it feels like we're demanding things of people, but honestly, you're doing people a service if they read your post and are like, oh yeah, like the co-op thing, I'm interested in that. And you say, join us at, become a member, come to our next event. You give them something they can do. You're not making them do it. People are busy. They want to know what to do. So I want one more post of solos I want to take a minute with, and just you guys do take phenomenal photos, and I think Soul takes some of the best photos at their events, and that's just being lucky to have people who are good with a camera. But this was really tied into your values. That's what I'm saying. So we talked about consistency. We see the brand. You see the brand in several places, and almost every post they do at least once. That sense of warmth and welcome. But his one is really, I love. This is very values based. It was like showing what the co-op aligns with. And I just wondered if you wanted to share anything about this post, about how your team came about it, anything like that.
Yeah, so this was actually from the outreach and engagement folks, and there is a new board member who is very good at photography. So that's why this past year there have been some really good photos. But yeah, I mean, this is we're in a Black and Brown community, and so MLK Day is obviously a big day
Mm-hmm.
in our community, and so that's why we want to have a presence there. Sometimes we table at events that may not be like food centric per se, but we know that we need to have that physical presence in the community and be surrounded with folks that are like-minded. And so, yeah, I agree. This is a great photo. The table scape, if you will, is something we've used for a long time. It has obviously African print on there. And so it is very Sola. And yeah, I agree. This is a really good photo.
And I love your point to that. The one thing that I think we also will see with Solas and a lot of social media and startups that are doing great work is it's really reflective of that community's culture. Sometimes we see ones on social media that are mostly graphics that have been made, and I get that you don't have photos, whatever, but they can feel a little generic, and we have to be careful of that. We want to get our brands on it, but also looking at Sola's work, and you'll see it in Bethlehem's too, really reflective of the community culture of where they are. Like, is a way to tell people that we are of the community and by the community that isn't words. And it's the images we pick, it's the pictures we pick, yes, but even the stuff that you've done in the images you've done in Canva, there's just these subtle things that reflect the community visually. I think you guys do such a great job on that. Thanks for sharing, Michael. Really
No
appreciate it.
problem.
We're gonna jump over to Bethlehem because they have some really great strengths too that I want to highlight. They're very different communities. So we're going from South LA of California, big busy community, and then we're going over to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And I don't know if you know, you don't have to off the top of your head, Carol, the population, but it's a college town. It got a lot of it's a historic town. It's known for a big Christmas celebration that happens there. Really different kind of community. And so you'll see a different voice because the voice of your social media should match your community. Carol, anything you just want to share so we get started here about thank you. Bethlehem, Chris put it in there. Population that on average, around 75,000 people in the village. So this was a post, and I put this one first. You had a different one first, so I apologize. The rest are in the order you put them in. But you guys are in the midst of building a store and trying to really get people to understand what it's gonna be. And so I see you doing a lot of storytelling. Do you want to talk about that? Like how you guys are thinking about your social media right now and your audience?
Well, we've been on this path for a while, like 11 or 12 years. And in fact, our first meeting happened because of Facebook. Somebody put a message out, they had a meeting at the library, and here we go. So there are a lot of folks who have been with us from the very beginning, but there are a lot of folks who have not been. And we continually try to keep everybody apprised of why we did things. And so this was one of those whys. So the picture of the building, actually the front faces the other buildings there, and the building's actually owned by a developer, and we're going to lease the ground floor to put our store in. So we've been watching the building going up. We are just hiring our general contractors, so we'll be getting in soon for the build out. But exciting things have been happening with the building itself, and like, hey, we have a parking lot, that's exciting. We also wanted to use this as a touch point to remind folks, we picked this space very deliberately. You can go to other grocery stores in our community and you have to cross 8 lanes of traffic. We wanted to be in a friendly neighborhood setting, friendly to walkers, bike riders, bus, we're between 2 bus spaces. And even with the apartments up above, we have dedicated parking. So, we're trying to appeal to everybody's way to travel to the store. So this is one of the things that I continually try to do is don't presume everybody knows our story, and kind of those gentle reminders of our journey.
I love that. And you and Michael both mentioned that, in a lot of ways, some of this is being toned to people who haven't been with you all along the journey, like, for new audiences. But I assume you two have found too, is that often startups think the people who've been on the journey for a long time know the story and remember why, because we've talked about it in one meeting or meeting in one, newsletter like years ago. And actually they need us to repeat and tell the story that they're part of. Do you find that like both current owners or owners who've been with you for a long time and new people resonate to this kind of storytelling, or is it really for one audience or the other?
Oh, I really am aiming for both, so that everybody's on the same page, and we get those future members moved to become actual members.
Excellent. And one thing that I'm gonna point out here, we say it a lot to folks who, if you're in stage 3, you'll hear a lot, take the owners, take the community on the journey with you. Means once you're funded, it's easy as a startup to just stop talking. Like, okay, we've got the money. Now we just have to get, everything lined up, hire the GM, get the build out, get done, get the construction team together. And we don't talk a lot about what's happening and show the community what they've built with you and really take them with. And actually that's a principle we can be using all along. We honestly, the work that we're doing doesn't seem as exciting to us. And so we're like, people don't want to see us having a meeting to discuss, if we're going to be at, if we're going to go to Harvest Fest this year. Yeah, actually they do. And I love that you, Carol, always, you're taking people on the journey. You're saying, this is why we made this decision. This is what's going on. And while this is more text, this is it's pretty concisely told, and it seems to be a theme ongoing with your guys' work. I'm going to take us to the next example. I love this line. Tell us a little bit about this post.
Well, back to that theme again about what are we doing? Why are we doing it? What's it going to be like when our store is actually open? And so this was another post in that vein. And I want to point out these photos are from Willie Street Market or Co-op in Madison. And that top picture of the bulk section, I've used and used and used. And when I post anything about bulk, the comments are flying. We can't wait for bulk. We love bulk. But interestingly, we did a product survey that went out to the bigger community, and it came back, we don't really care about bulk because we lived in Costco land, and bulk to a lot of other folks means I'm going to go buy a case of paper towels. They don't see this as bulk. So we know that's an educational message we have to get out to the bigger community. Like, here's something special we're going to have that's going to help impact your bottom line. It's going to impact food waste, all kinds of benefits. So I'm using it both to keep our members excited about, yeah, we're going to have this, but also an educational tool. And so, and to Michael's point, you got a good picture, keep using it. And then I also chose the other two pictures to reinforce the cooperative principles and that whole theme about know where your food's coming from. Again, that's another value that our co-op members really share, is they're very focused on local and very focused on sustainability. And I probably P6 that last paragraph because it's pretty well written. And I was like, oh, this is great. So if you wrote that, thank you.
First up, I want to point out, Carol, I think more than anyone I know, does an amazing job of following all the rest of your social media and being willing to P6, and you all should do the same. It's brilliant.
Oh, amen. That was going to be part of mine. And yeah, I've learned so much, not just about what you're doing as co-ops, but also how to do your social. But also we can help each other. When I pop up our account, anything I'm following shows up, and I try to take a few minutes, like, comment, share. So yeah, I really encourage us. We can help each other in that way.
Absolutely. I love that. You can't stress enough that sometimes when your social media isn't cooking, it really, when peers from other co-ops just like everything they see of yours, oh God, it helps. It really just gets that algorithm moving. But one thing I want to point out that you shared here that this is kind of a masterclass right here, because you noticed, first thing I want to point out, Carol noticed, is they put out some social media and they noticed what people are responding to. Sometimes I've seen startups go, oh God, we're so excited for the bulk, us organizing for it. Everyone is going to be excited about bulk. And they put a post about bulk and they ask what people are looking forward to in bulk. And they get little response, actually lower response than usual. Other times, some co-ops are like, oh, this is a bulk department for another co-op. And whoa, big response. People are like, oh, that's so cool. We want bulk, lots and lots of likes. You guys noticed, you know what you thought everybody wanted, but it's so important to not just know what you thought everybody wanted, but to listen. Social media, Carol's, you have just natural at this, is an opportunity also to listen to what actually resonates with the community, right? And then, of course, your point about education. But I love that the thing I wanted to tease out there is that you watch what people respond to too, and learn things about what's important about the co-op through that. And I'm going to take us through this example, but I just really wanted to point that out because I think that's awesome. Tell us about.
Can I tag on a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of circular. Like, I work a lot of events, so I'm out helping staff our table, and I hear what people are asking, what aren't they clear about? And so I use that to inform the messaging that then goes out on social. Like, so we keep repeating, everyone's welcome at our store. You can't say that enough times. And all these other values. So it's very circular. So if you have the opportunity to be out talking to folks, you'll know. And also follow your notifications and go back and look at your posts and see what people are talking about. And by the way, somebody's out there trying to sell t-shirts on all our site, on all our social. So keep the spammers out, keep your stuff clean. So this one again, unless everybody's out there wearing a t-shirt or you've got everybody tattooed or something, they don't know who other people are who are co-op members. So we took the opportunity to say, hey, the other folks who joined are also attracted to, you have these common interests. So we use this as a little educational piece. We used it to say, hey, here's who you all are. And then if that resonates with you, future members, maybe you want to join us. So this was kind of a 3 for in a short post.
Short
And
post,
hopefully
but
with the
you tagged, and I don't know if everyone knows, but if you tag, you get their audience too. It's a community org, so you're building up your network, and their sense like they appreciate it. They're like, oh, you just gave your audience to us too. So you're building community on multiple levels with something like this. This is great. And again, every startup co-op's core values are different. The environmental impact is a big core value for Bethlehem, so this was a slam dunk. We had a question in the comments, and I do want to get to it, but I want to get through a few more examples here. This is one of the things I think Bethlehem really excels at is whenever you guys first excel going out and making sure that the local press knows all about you on every level, and then sharing about it and showing, that you've got this visibility. So just want to talk a little bit about this post and what you think is notable about it.
Well, this was more of a kind of a technical thing, and I hope I'm not getting in the weeds too much, but we talk about sharing information, especially from other community organizations. This is our local NPR station. They have a program that's all about food. So we wanted to support that. And it's easy to just hit share and then, write a little comment above it. But in my travels, it appeared to me that if I did that, I didn't get the reach that I would get if I took a few more minutes and built an original post. So I actually pulled the photos, wrote my own copy, made the link, or put the link in the story, in the content, so people had to click that instead of it showing up like a preview. So I don't know if other people have experienced that or not, but it's something, it feels like it's getting a better reach if I take a few minutes to do that. If you don't have time, hit share, put a little message on it and get it out there. But
Dead on,
I don't
Carol.
know.
No, that's I have noticed that too. We both do social media management outside of our day jobs too. Like you can always hit share, and at least if you're going to do that, put a comment that personalizes it, like why your co-op would share it. Connect it to the value, something. But I love that, Carol. I don't know if everyone caught that. What Carol did is she took a post that she wanted to amplify, because you can remember when you amplify things that are happening locally, then you're like the co-op's about local, yay. So it's amplifying your values if supporting local business and local economy is a core piece of your co-op. So that's great. But if you just share it, the algorithm pushes it down. And so Carol opened the post, took the photos, and created a new post. It was very similar, but new post with their photos and her own links and stuff. And it's considered it's a fresh post then. And the algorithm treats it very differently than if you had just shared it. And I think that's what you were getting at, Carol, right?
Yep.
And so I wanted to make sure people understood what she was saying. So you see a great post you want to share, you want to connect to that local org, you want to show people what's going on. If you have the time to do what Carol's done here, is don't just share it, take that extra 10 minutes and take the photos and put them in Canva or whatever and do your own post with it. It will get better reach. It is technical, but people want to know that stuff. That's great.
And then here's a sample of, we had some an article in a local magazine, and then we shared it. You just put the link. It was actually on the magazine's website, so folks could go and read it directly. It's such a great visual, and don't be afraid to if you put something in your newsletter, put it in your social. If it's in your social, put it on your website. You're managing content, and use whatever platforms you have to get it out there as much as you can, and repeat stuff because not everybody's going to see it the first time it goes out there.
Such a good point. I think it was you who first said it in some session I was in. You're like, well, everything that goes in your newsletter is now content for the social media content for the next month. And I was like, oh, right. Like, go harvest the newsletter. Like that's such a great point, layering the different ways you share the information. I was going to ask you if you've ever reshared this one, because this is the kind of post where I'm like, I might wait a month, but I would post this again and, make sure, and then I might post it again, 3-4 months later, and make sure people saw it. When you have an image and an article that's this great, how often would you, when you repeat stuff, how often do you repeat?
Probably the schedule that you mentioned. Yeah.
Okay. This one I love because it's so your community. This wouldn't fly in all communities, but people loved this post. Tell us about it.
This is, if you need to know, Sneak Some Zucchini on Your Neighbor's Porch Night is August 8th. And I love fun holidays because they just give you a good excuse to package some other content or just have some fun. And I really wanted the voice of our social to reflect what we hope our store is going to be. That it's kind of place everybody's welcome. You come in, it's warm, it's accessible, and we're here to have a good time. So, and we're going to share some other resources. I borrowed very heavily from Green Top Grocery in Bloomington, right down the road from where JQ is. And they have a whole document that kind of articulates their voice, and they did a terrific job of it. And like I said, borrowed heavily from it, and I'll share that. So this was just something to do for fun, and remind folks who we are and what our community is about. Actually, one of our members took that picture. I think it's terrific, and we have some version of this every August 8th. So.
And I want to point out, this is so specific, like knowing your community's voice, because once you're open as a food co-op, open food co-ops will go, oh, there's, it's pineapple day or something. And then they'll do like and it doesn't tend to work. This doesn't work for everyone, but I think the reason it worked in your community is very neighborly, and the tone, notice that warmth. I mentioned it with Michael's work too. Like, it's really stand out in both of their work that there isn't a post that isn't friendly or isn't like storytelling, but sometimes they're both just particularly really fun or really, really warm. Like, I think, Michael, I see more in your team's work, a lot of appreciation of being in community with such depth and warmth. And I see the sense of humor really come through in Bethlehem, the neighborly kind of nudge, silly sense of humor. And I just love that this post wouldn't have worked for everyone, but it works for Bethlehem. And they know that Carol knows their voice.
Can I say that that every year we get more reaction to it, and now people are starting to put photos in the comments of the bag they left on their neighbor's porch. So we're getting some kind of fun engagement. So going back to the idea of just using a fun holiday for an excuse to get out your message. I think it was last week was National Peanut Butter Day. And our general manager is like over the moon that we have room to put in a couple of nut grinders into our store. And that's going to be something pretty unique to our area. So this was a way to tell that story. I could have told it without it being National Peanut Butter Day, but to me, that just made it more fun. So, and then besides that part of it, there was a soft call to action. If this, and we reminded again, everyone's welcome to shop here. So I'm trying to, without hitting you in the face with things, I'm just trying to work in, some of those kind of reminders.
Yeah, both you and Michael mentioned that. And before I stop sharing, I want to point that out. Like, thank you for bringing that up. the call to actions sometimes should be over the head, if you're doing an ownership drive, but both you guys are very skilled at, and this works, is those soft. So you see the ask down here in the third paragraph. She's told you all about these values and this fun stuff, and everyone's welcome to shop. And then said, and if you support these values, you could join. And it was similar in one of Michael's posts. We were like, it was there was another point to the post, or there was stuff he was sharing, but then it was like, and if now you want to take action because you were too busy shopping this weekend, but now you're ready to join. And so again, that's that voice, that conversational thing. And I want to get enough time for a couple questions, and I had some questions for you folks, and I'm gonna throw this one to you first, Michael, and see if you have some thoughts on it, and then if Carol, if you want to jump in. Peter and Scott was talking about okay, so we have this core Facebook following, but what their algorithm seems to be making it very hard to reach new audiences. How do you get new eyeballs to see your posts, in particular reach specific types of folks? Like, people have certain interests, so forth. Is it worth putting some dollars in, and I think you mean like ad dollars into that, so I wanted to throw that to Michael.
Yeah, so I did see the question, and I did go look back through our I think everyone would have the professional dashboard in their Instagram accounts. If you have a business account, you can go look at your posts and then audience, if it reached followers versus non-followers. If you don't know that, you should go into your Instagram account and see that. Typically, the posts that reach non-followers are the ones that are shared the most or tagged, right? So if you tag another business, they're going to be more likely to post it, especially if they post the same post. I don't know if this goes against what Carol was saying, but if you tag a business, then they post it to their feed, you will automatically, right? You're going to reach now non-followers because the post is being posted by another business. So I would say you got to make content that's shareable. You can even have your own board members comment and share. Tag businesses. And then I don't know if this is exactly true, but I would say video would probably be more likely to be shared more broadly, like a reel or a story. But it's hard to validate, but I'm pretty sure that's true.
I think you're right about that. And I think it's interesting because I think what you're talking about is true in Instagram too, like the tagging and sharing. And I think Carol is talking specifically in Facebook, it works better to rebuild the post. And I think that's true. Those, by the way, if people ask all the time, those are the two social platforms you should be on. That is still where the main reach is. And they do have very
I will say, I will say everything I talk about is for Instagram. Mm-hmm. I only post to Facebook as like a feature of when I post to Instagram. I'm not posting unique content to Facebook, unfortunately.
Well, and also that's specific to your community. I have seen communities that their owners are all on Instagram, and I've seen others who have tons of interaction on Facebook, and Instagram's kind of for them. And that can be age group, that can be type of community. So I noticed that with you guys, Michael, that your Instagram posts get a ton more attention than your Facebook. And that's, and I've seen the reverse in some communities as well. It kind of depends. So Carol, do you guys do anything to specifically, or have you ever invested dollars in trying to get new eyeballs, get beyond your core? Or
we've done some boost posts, which is different than it's basically just putting a few dollars, and it's not very much. You could put $5 or $10, and it takes your original post and shoots it out to a bigger audience. And it can be as simple as send this to all the friends of our friends, or you can dive into the demographics a little bit more and say, oh, send this to everybody who says they like health food or their sustainability issues or whatever. So that's something you can look around a little bit. Something that's really pretty easy is, this is on Facebook, but where the number of likes shows up on the lower left corner, you can click that on and it'll show everybody who has engaged with your post. And if they aren't following you already, there's a little invite button, and you can click that on. And every day I get a couple more roll in, so-and-so's, following you now. And in theory, because some of them got an invite, because they came across us some other way, and then we kind of reeled them in.
And that's very true of Facebook. Excellent. Yeah. Michael, asked if there's any last questions. People tend to be pretty intimidated, or saw a lot of people tend to be intimidated about doing video. And I have found that what works on Instagram for video is easier than people think. What do you think? How do people get started with that?
Yeah, it is a little scary, but like no one has a professional videographer, right? Like it's everyone is just holding up their phone and taking videos, and obviously our phones are so good now that visually it's gonna look great. Yeah, people want to just see other folks talking. I know, I think Long Beach Co-op is on the call. I know they do videos sometimes, and I think it looks great. So yeah, it's a little scary to do video, but it can be like a 5-second clip, to be honest, and you'll get a lot of eyeballs on it.
That's what, thank you for pointing that out, because I think people are like, well, and I have to, I mean, I'm of the generation too. I'm like, we have to plan out this video and what we're gonna say. And it's like, it could be a 5-second clip of someone smiling at your table holding up a pamphlet. That's it. That's the whole video. And it's gonna reach more eyeballs. So yeah, someone was saying, yeah, your team loves video at Long Beach. That's awesome. But I know a lot of other teams are like really intimidated by it. I'm like, it's get over it by also knowing that social media has like actually like loves imperfection. You know, like you don't have to be perfect. Have fun.
And it's not very permanent either. So, you can do something, it'll be there for a day or so, and then everyone else is going to forget it while you're still fretting about how it didn't look, as good as you wanted it to. And you'll learn.
Yeah, and I want to put in the comments. Susan's from Food Shed. She's in the comments. They have tried both Instagram and Facebook, and they have found their audience is a Facebook audience. I legit have seen this with lots of co-ops. One or the other is much more active for them, and that's okay. Then again, like it's that watching your audience Carol was talking about, seeing what they respond to. We don't then totally, we don't totally jettison Facebook, but as Michael said, like he occasionally cross posts to Facebook, but he knows Instagram's his important audience. Some startups, lucky you, both get a lot of reaction, so you have to make sure you're maintaining both. And some, Facebook is really where it's at, and they occasionally put something on Instagram, and that's okay. Watch and see what's going on with your community. But thanks for pointing that out, because Susan, if you go to Food Shed's social media, they're doing some terrific stuff, lots of interaction, just and really great stuff if you're a co-op that is in stage 3 about how to tell the story and take people with you as the store is getting built. But all this phenomenal, beautiful graphics and photos, and it does better on Facebook. And that can be the case. Any last comments or questions for our speakers, though? I want to make sure that we didn't miss anything.
I'm just going to reinforce what you said about Food Shed, because they're knocking it out of the park. So
anyone else? Okay. One last thing I will mention, I want you to note when you go, and I want you to go to Bethlehem's social media and to Sola's social media. Bethlehem does a lot more text. Sola does less. And that can also be very specific to your community. So, try stuff and see what works. In social media management, I've had some clients go, oh, no, we only do really short posts, or we only do really long posts, and make sure you explain everything. And I have found sometimes they are wrong about what their audience wants. And sometimes a nice mix of longer storytelling and shorter, right? But notice also how people react to that in your social media. And they both do a really great job. They both lean one direction or the other, because Facebook is more wordy. People will read longer. And Instagram is less wordy. People will not read as long. But they both do a mix of both. And you can take note of that. Oh yeah, and Bethlehem wanted to mention that they also have a Volunteers and Friends Facebook page. Last thing, we'll talk about this and then we'll wrap up, which is some startups have chosen to have a page that is just for owners on a group, or just for their volunteers, or and I know Bethlehem does utilize one of those. Do you want to say a quick word on that, Carol?
Just we're welcome, or you're welcome to check that out. I did hear another co-op that all their action was in their Facebook group, and their regular Facebook page had nothing. And ours is the opposite. Our main page has more interaction, but our group is growing as well. That's the one that I'm managing right now. And just on the process thing, we've gone from kind of me and a team of folks out in the community taking a lot of pictures and sending stuff to a small group, and that on Monday we brought on our first marketing coordinator. So she's just started, so we're going to be doing another transition where she'll be doing the lead, have the lead responsibility. So co-op world ever changing.
I apologize. I know we didn't get to all the topics I was hoping we get to. I hope a lot of it got interwoven. But any last, Michael, did you want any last tip or trick or anything you wanted to mention that you were hoping to share?
Um, I don't know if there's any tips. I mean, I use Canva. If people have questions about Canva, you can shoot me an email. I can put it in the chat. Yeah, I use Canva a lot. I strongly encourage anyone at our events to get imagery or videos. And then, yeah, we basically think of our profile as like a storefront, if you will, right? We don't have one. And so anytime someone comes to our profile, we want the look and feel and the content to represent where we are in our stages. And at this point, we're about to be, raising money. And so the people who have a lot of money, it might be grants, businesses, we want them to feel a certain way when they come to our profile.
Excellent. I'm sorry, we could obviously could have talked to them both a lot more, but we are at the top of the hour. So I want to thank Carol and Michael so much for giving up their time to come and share their experiences with their peers and give you guys stuff you can build off of. Thank you both so much.
This was great. Thanks.
Fun.
All right, everyone, we've got one session left to go tonight. I hope to see a few of you there. Thanks so much for being here today. If you want to stay and continue the conversation for just a minute or two, we'll do that after we stop the recording. Thanks for being here.